Good morning, everybody. This is Eugene Roundtree, High Voltage News, on the way to work again. Once we get rolling here on the highway, we'll start shedding into some topics. Hope everybody's having a wonderful, wonderful Sunday morning. I'd rather be at church, worshiping God, singing, playing trumpet to glorify His name. However, today I am in the structure that we call working towards the American dream. Yes, here we are, flying down the highway at 70 miles an hour on the way to work. Alright, so, what's on my mind this morning? Well, I had a little thought this morning as I was seeing everybody bustling about in their automobiles. And the thought was, what if people didn't have to get in those automobiles 5 days a week to drive their commute? Wouldn't the environmentalists be happy then? Now, what if the dollar bill was strong enough that you could work 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week? I know it may sound ludicrous to you guys, but I'm pretty sure about 100 years ago you could go get your food, be self-sustaining, and enjoy your time at home with your family. Raise your own kids so you didn't have to figure out who could watch them that day, perhaps inconveniencing them, or perhaps charging you more money than you made that day to get in your car and leave the household. However, once again, it is all about taxes, productivity, and a false sense of benchmarks to justify what we call progress. So, back to my point about automobiles. You know, big oil, big corporation, automobile manufacturers that have gone overseas after your bailout of their company. They all want you to buy their cars, they all want you to buy their oil, they all want you to keep going in your little hamster, rat in a cage type of scenario. Back to work, back home, back to work, back home, paying for yesterday's debt. Now, it is one thing to want to work, make a living, and provide for your family. It's another thing to have it thrust upon you with taxation that, if you look, goes into half of people's earnings at times, sometimes more than half of their earnings. And quite honestly, it's not the super rich that are being taxed that. You're made to think that, but to use, I think it's Peter Watson's term, Republicrats, to use their methodology, you know, the middle class of the world is shrinking. America is being brought down to equal that of third world serfdom, not brought up. You say you're not in a socialist country, you say you're in a democracy. Yes, democracy. Well, how do you justify all of the foreign aid sent to Egypt? How do you justify all of the foreign aid sent to any country, even during a military coup, which violates, that's the number one rule that would have negated foreign aid to Egypt. Of course, then they redefine the term foreign coup. They redefine military coup and say that really wasn't what was happening. Sent the money anyways. Now, if you think about how it might be part of the attempt at a new world order, it makes sense to put all of your chess pieces in various countries. So otherwise, if you have no presence in every bit of territory in the world, then you definitely do not have a new world order. Go back to the dollar bill, it says in Latin, clear, plain, and simple, nuevus orderum, or variation thereof. It's New World Order. Take a look at the presidential State of the Union address. He's always standing in front of a couple of fascies. It's fascism. I mean, they don't have those little axes with bundles of sticks wrapped around them standing behind the president for nothing. They know what it's there for. But this isn't the point of it all. Let's just say you took big government, big New World Order, big spy country out of the picture, okay? Alright, first of all, it's taken a grand amount of debt to finance what they do. It's funny money. They shut national parks down to put fear in the hearts of citizens, and then ticket the citizens when they go onto that park for a jog. Okay, this just happened last fall of 2013. Now, they shut down that park at the same time they're building supercomputers to spy on your emails. Lord forbid you have a business idea you want to send to a friend and not have it get intercepted and copied and manufactured by a corporation, or just in general you get it shut down and never have your idea come to fruition for you to make money. Alright, so there is a big fallacy between the amount of money that we spend on certain things and then the speeches that a candidate will give in order to get into office and later stay in office. So you've got these speeches that say things like, oh yeah, progress, growth, economic stability, recovery, and prosperity for everybody. Really? So your friends are working less, they're paying off all of their debts, and they're retiring earlier. Uh-huh. Yeah. The only people doing that are the ones in office. They're the ones buying more homes. They're the ones financing their friends' companies. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Which, it's very, very baseline human nature to take care of your friends. I get it. But they're not elected to do that. They're elected to make it raise the bar for everybody. Now, let's go to a little bit of self-sustainability here, because why wouldn't you want your countrymen to be able to sustain themselves? Well, there's a need of power and need of control that they enjoy having and creating. But let's just say that you take all the money you spend on energy and you put it on a variety of ways to create energy on your own. Okay? You've got a windmill. You've got a solar panel. You've got perhaps maybe some hydroelectric access to a river next door or on your property. Lord forbid you have your own property, right? Now, the money that you can spend on that, why don't you get a tax credit there? Or why don't you get a hand there? Instead, they want to give you monthly food stamps because you can't work enough hours in the day to pay your debts. Well, just think if you didn't have to spend $500 a month on energy bills. Good Lord, that's $6,000. 1 year of energy bills can buy you a solar energy setup or buy part of a wind turbine or something. You can nitpick all the points you want, but if you had the American population or any country's population that had a plot of land, a way to provide the energy that they needed on that house, well, they'd probably have a pretty good way of life and be able to enjoy life a little bit more. Let's say they also had a way to grow their own food, okay? Oh, well, what if their terrain doesn't have the ability? Okay, there's that argument. Well, perhaps they can grow indoors or grow with lighting or have a greenhouse. Perhaps they could have a cow or a chicken. But that's not what you see happening. You see legislation that is strictly in the face of that. You see the bullying of farmers, and you see chemical companies taking over. Seriously, their biggest argument for existence has been to feed the world. They're not feeding the world. And don't tell me they're feeding all of Africa while Bill Gates is vaccinating all of them to be sterile and not procreate. In fact, when you don't see much in the news about a country, one thing that comes to my mind is that, well, things must not be very good to be showing people. And quite honestly, how many decades are we going to watch that whole continent going down in flames with factional wars poverty and regressive styles of civilization. It'd be nice to see them grow, prosper, and enjoy peace and a good life. But I don't see that happening on the news. I definitely don't hear that coming out of the mouths of politicians. And backwards day of humanity is continuing. It is amazing to me to grow up and see so much opportunity in this world and watch our leaders funnel arms and warheads into various spots and then want to take away people's personal right to protect themselves in their own home or while they're out and about. It's amazing to me. At what point do people stand up and do something about it? But when you do, if you do, when the dust settles, you have to look at who is on top, who makes out ahead, and who may be in the shadows again. Otherwise, you get right back into the same spot you were before. What is going to change it? 100 years ago, people had their own land here in America, and I bet they had a little bit more spare time and a little less taxation. Now we have a policy of indebtedness and climbing up a muddy slope and literally getting buried up to our knees in it. You feel like you're going to get out? I don't know. Keep working on it. But for now, somehow you have to make more money than you spend. You have to be able to sustain yourself in ways that aren't going to set you back 5 steps. So that's kind of what's on the mind on this trip to work and the American dream. The thing about it is, natural resources abound. They say economic scarcity exists everywhere, but you really don't see the people that talk about scarcity suffering from scarcity. You don't see that. They'll try to tell you about how they grew up and they had a rickety car. Yeah. Until they kiss the butt of their puppet master. Or they happen to work very hard, and get it. But a lot of times, the people that worked very hard to get it aren't the ones that are making the laws to control you. What could I possibly mean by that? Let's take John Kerry, for instance. Did he make his fortune? Did he? No. He married into the family of Teresa Heinz Kerry. And all of the ketchup that you buy helped that family. And now John Kerry enjoys the fruits of their labor. John Kerry also takes that silver spoon that he married into and makes laws for you. And is currently trotting around the world talking about global warming. Politicians wouldn't give a damn about today's weather if they weren't able to use it to control you. The only reason they care about today's weather is to be able to tax you with what they want to create as a carbon tax. So, if you use the carbon tax and you happen to exercise and exert more energy, do you have to pay more because you did that? You chose to run instead of walk. You used more carbon energy. Do you now need to pay more money? You may as well stick an ATM onto a treadmill and just put it on auto withdrawal. There are so many angles to how they want to enslave the population that it is mind-boggling. Food supply, conquer and divide, warmongering, tech.